Okay. We should be live pretty soon. I'm going to guess possibly now. Hi, everyone, and howdy and aloha. This is James with Monotalk. Thank you all for coming. This is the show where we talk to people that come on the show, people that have been here for a long time. We've been doing this for like 5 or 6 months, but Monotalk has just been around for about 3 or 4 weeks. But the show itself has been around for a while. We've got a lot of viewers that come on here, and if you need to, take our video and use it for whatever you need to use it for, which is some good stuff out there, hopefully. My job, core thing that I always do, is I basically am just trying to fix the planet and all of its inhabitants. I know that's a big, long, broad stroke, but it's little pieces, man, little pieces. And if we have the right judiciaries, the right legislators, the right executives, and the right people in powerful positions to do those things, we can start, taking baby steps. But the biggest thing I wanted to say is we have a super amazing special guest who took some time out of his very, very important campaigning day. And I'm going to bring you, if you can see him on the top of the screen, it is Derrick Crow from Texas, who's running for the 21st District of Texas. And I'm going to open up the screen a little bit more so everybody can come on. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
I'm just going to open the screen up. Just give me a second to the gallery. There we go. So now everybody's on. Thank you so much. This is so awesome. And I want to say thank you to my co-host, Taylor, for coming on. Give it a shaka. All right, Taylor.
Yeah, I love being with Monotalk.
So what's going on, man? How are things with you, Derrick? Mr. Crow, how are things with you?
Oh, they're great. We've had a really great day. I spent almost the entire day out knocking on doors and talking to future constituents about the things that matter to them. And that's exciting because the current representation we have in this district, we've had an absentee Republican here for decades now. And, talking to people immediately after all the stuff that went on last night was a pretty great experience just to talk to them about what they thought about this tax vote. So it's been great. We've been campaigning out since about April, and I think we're really far ahead as far as voter contact as anybody else in our primary. So things are going really well. We picked up some big national endorsements recently. Justice Democrats endorsed us a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking to see what happens with an Our Revolution endorsement vote this week. So things are going well. It's pretty exciting.
Good. I just have a little Jack and Coke. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're enjoying yourself. That's good. So no, it's been a phenomenal couple of weeks. We've had endorsements from groups like Democracy for America come out for us. Bill McKibben, who's a giant climate activist, one of my real heroes, has come out and endorsed us. So we're just taking a very progressive message to the 21st district, which is support for Medicare for all, climate change action that's urgent and real, college for all, and raising the minimum wage. Policies that will help working class folks instead of just these rich donors that are getting their payback right now with this tax bill.
And we need that. We definitely need as many true progressives as possible that are out there trying to do the right things.
Right.
People that usually come on our show. And by the way, I got to say hi to all the people in the chat. What's up, live chat people? And if you can, I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, which I think you just are using your phone right now.
Yeah, it's just my phone at the moment, yeah.
But what's cool is I'm able to put the chat in with this OBS system, which most people are using for gaming situations.
I have actually used that before, so I know exactly.
Cool, right? It's
pretty great.
Brilliant. But anyway, we got a bunch of people out there that are listening to us, and I've got Jenny Lynn, and a few. Usually at night we'd have a lot more. But they're
I'm going to warn you, too. My 3-year-old may be about to bust through that door. So it may be Wild Kingdom in here for a second. So
that's all right. That's all right. We all got kids. And I got my 13 or 15-year-old coming later. We're going to probably just go get some Taco Bell.
Nice.
And play some Overwatch.
Oh, nice.
My mom and I, we play World of Warcraft.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my son and I think, went to playing a lot of Minecraft together. You want to come say hi real quick, buddy? You want to say hi to the universe?
Hi, bring him in.
Come here, dude.
Come on,
you're going to meet Henry, which is the reason that I'm running for Congress.
There you go. The reason why we're all doing
this. On your face. Come here.
Come on in, Henry.
Henry looks like he's been eating chocolate ice cream. Come here, buddy. This is Henry.
Oh, what a cutie pie. What's up, buddy?
We had the dad spit treatment here. You're on the internet right now.
Can you say
You're being
shaka?
broadcast.
Say
Can
shaka,
you do this?
brother.
Can you do this?
Say aloha.
Do this?
That's a tough
Can you say
one.
aloha?
That's a tough one.
Can you say aloha? Guess not.
Anyway,
He's shy
so-
now.
so-
He always wants to be on camera.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
he's shy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here you go, buddy.
Awesome,
Oh,
bro.
let me put you down.
Daddy came home.
I did come home, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
We now have. We're now seeing our ceiling.
Okay,
Here we go.
we're
We
good, we're
rehearse
good.
here. Sorry about that.
All right, so
He's
to
gonna wanna
people,
sit with
Jay
Derrick,
Scott
so-
says hello, Derrick. Jenny Lynn says squeeze. Oh, Jenny Lynn just wants to squeeze your kid.
He is
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah.
He is the reason I'm running for Congress, honestly. He's
I remember when I had kids I could squeeze. Now I want to just,
now you have teenagers. Is that what you
13,
have?
15. Well, my daughter, who I loved to squeeze a lot
Yeah.
when she was younger, she's in the Air Force now. She's been in for 4 years.
Yeah.
She's stationed in Auckenburg, London. Like what has just happened? Just all of a sudden, boom,
Right,
she's gone,
exactly.
grown, and it's freaking awesome. But she's amazing. Didn't
Yeah.
come from my side of the family. Just like
Well, Henry,
I'll be right back.
you're gonna be right back. Henry says he's gonna be right back. You should know that. So it's really important.
all right.
Henry is the reason I'm running for Congress. Actually,
Nice.
he has never lived. I tell this story to help people understand the political environment here in this district. It's the 21st district of Texas. It's represented currently by the biggest climate change denier in Congress, Lamar Smith.
My
He
God.
runs the science committee and doesn't believe in global warming. But Henry has never lived in a world that wasn't currently the hottest year on record. Henry was born in 2014, which was the hottest year on record. 2014, 2015, 2016 were all the hottest years on record, period. This is currently the hottest non-El Nino year on record. So every year he's been alive, we've been on this in the middle of what seems to be an escalating climate emergency.
Mhm.
So he's the reason that I'm running for Congress.
Perfect. I mean, I'm in the same boat. And that's what I always say on my shows. I'm doing it.
Right.
We really need to take the most drastic measures. I mean, I'm not just talking about slowing down fossil fuel
Right.
use. I'm talking about
Right.
just completely stopping. I know that's crazy. Maybe that's a little too much or reaching too much. But we really have to do something tremendous.
I think you have put your finger on the problem. I mean, look, we have a political environment right now where they're trying to make it impossible for us to take action on fossil fuels. But even the folks that we typically think of being on our side in this situation are not taking the urgency of the problem seriously. If you look at what folks like Kevin Anderson, who's a leading climate scientist at the Tyndall Climate Center, he's quoted by Naomi Klein in her book, This Changes Everything.
Mhm.
He talks about why even the folks who are on our side on this putatively are about 10 years behind on the science. If you look at the true projections and you don't allow folks to factor in things like future carbon sequestration on the order of 10 gigatons a year or something like that after 2050, if you don't allow essentially magic and time travel in these projections, what you get is we've got till about the year 2035 to be net zero carbon emissions. And that means in the next couple of decades, we have to completely move to a renewable energy system. And what that also means is that by the time Trump leaves office, to be on track to hit to be on track for those projections, it's going to take us making a 50% reduction in fossil fuels. And I'm sorry, there's a cat outside our door. I don't know what's going on.
That's weird. That's
Sorry
weird.
about that. If that's disruptive, I'll go
That
clear
could
it out.
be just remember in Avatar?
Right, exactly. That's exactly
He was has heard you. He was heard you.
right. Henry, calm down. Sorry about that. He just came home. Like the timing is pretty bad. I apologize. So he wants to bust in. But Henry, we can't watch right now, buddy. We're on a TV interview. I'm trying to be I don't know if you saw a couple of months ago or like last year, the kid who busted it on the BBC interview. I'm working on being the opposite.
Oh yeah, that was freaking
feel like
hilarious.
The guy missed his chance to make a nice moment for his kid. So
that was
this
hilarious.
happens. I try to do the opposite as a parent.
I don't know where Taylor went, but I was gonna.
Right.
Okay, so
Sorry about that.
I fully agree. There's so many things out there that are. Taylor, please stop touching your phone.
Yeah, I need to like charge it real quick.
Okay, he's gonna charge. Because
Yep.
people fiddle with them, and the next thing you know, boop, they're gone.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
But I have my PC. I'm in my comfortable room that I've been in for a while. I'm trapped in here, by the way. It's a
Right.
2 terabyte super gaming computer, so it's always good to have
Nice.
one of those. So
Right.
anyway, Taylor, since he brought you on, he wanted to ask you a couple of really hard questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he's touching it. There he is touching it again. Okay,
You
no,
have
I've
to
got one.
plug it.
I've got one from the gallery. Give me a second.
All right.
And this
Sure.
this comes from
There we go.
someone. I do have a question for Mr. Crow. James, spelling in the title. What are his views on kratom? Kratom. Have you ever heard of that before?
I have no idea. I'm a politician who's not afraid
Yeah,
to say I
what the
don't know.
heck?
If he would explain it a little
Yeah.
bit, or she would explain it,
Yeah,
I'd be happy to talk
I'm going to
about
read
it.
it off when she does. This should be like town hall, so ordinary people can ask questions, not just those that have a show. What? Okay, yeah, it's open, by the way, so come on.
Right.
Kratom. I don't know what that means. Could somebody elaborate on that, please? Okay, Taylor, do you have your question? We'll get
Yeah,
back to
it's
that
all
one. I'm
written
sorry about
down.
that. It's KAR space TON. They
I don't
use
know
it
what it is.
in Africa a lot. Oh, it's an herbal medicine plant from Southeast Asia. Have you ever heard of it?
I've never heard of it.
Wow. We'll have to elaborate on that some more and get some more information on it. It's
Right.
it's under attack currently. I guess they want to bring it to the United States. It's supposed to be really good. You know, our pharmaceutical industry, all
Right.
about it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the real problems. When we talk to people at the doors, pharmaceutical prices are a real hot button issue in this district, just because, we have a very young district generally, but there's a lot of folks who are here for their retirement because there's a contingent of the district. We include the Texas Hill Country, and so it's very beautiful, and people tend to move there to retire. And so there's a large section of the population that's very worried about prescription drug prices and Medicare and Medicaid. And I think in addition to needing things like Medicare for all and essentially recognizing healthcare as a right and trying to take the profit motive out of healthcare, we need to talk about things like prescription drug prices and the stranglehold that our pharmaceutical industry also has in our politics. And so we're trying to fight that in our campaign by not only asking for or advocating for Medicare for all, but trying to get Medicare to negotiate things like prescription drug prices and to make sure that we're doing proper oversight over the FDA to make sure that we're getting the medicines that we need and that they're being approved on a timely basis. So I don't know anything about that particular substance that your questioner is asking about, but I think the general profit motive does lead the pharmaceutical industry and our government to lock things out of the market. Sort of related to that would be questions about medical marijuana.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
That's his question. Go ahead.
So actually, at the meet and greet that Taylor and I met, we had a young man who attended who asked us about that question. He was very timid about it because he's from a Republican area.
Was he stoned?
But I'm not timid about it at all. I think not only do we need to allow for things like medical marijuana, we need to talk about decriminalizing minor possession offenses so that we treat addiction problems like they're actual addictions in this country, instead of treating them as if you've committed a crime against the state. And so I'm not only for the use of medical marijuana, I'm sorry, my kiddo is just having a ball in here.
We're good. We've had all kinds of wonderful noises coming from our homes.
Hearing my kiddo is not a bad thing.
It's very normal here. Very normal.
Right. So, but the thing that I'm pushing for beyond that is to get some real criminal justice reform in place, because we are incarcerating and have people, a number of people serving in slave labor right now that exceeds the number of people that were enslaved during actual slavery in this country. And the thing that drives that is the so-called war on drugs, which is really a war on people with a health issue, which is an addiction to drugs. So the kind of reforms I'm going for are things like, you should be decriminalizing minor possession cases. So if you get caught with something in an amount like a gram or less, and a cop pulls you over, here's how that interaction should go. That cop should say to you, look, we think this is marijuana or whatever is currently illegal, and you say, we will allow you to challenge that suspicion and pay for the test, or you can just pay a ticket for the cost of the disposal. And that's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
If there's clearly no intent to distribute an illegal substance as like a dealer, that interaction should be treated like an addiction scenario and not as a major crime. What that would do is not only stop all these people going to jail for no violent reason,
But
it would make the police officers safer. Because in places like that have a 3 strikes law, for example, if you know that what you're facing when that cop pulls you over and you've had 2 strikes already is possible something like 25 years in prison, you know that if you're going to have a life, you've got 2 options. You can either go to prison or you can kill the cop to get away. And that heightens those interactions in a way that makes both parties very unsafe. So I'm for medical marijuana, but I think the broader problem is that we treat addiction like a crime in this country, and we should stop.
that's
And
perfect.
what about like having marijuana the way it is in Colorado and Washington now?
I mean, could you be a little more specific about which aspect of that you're asking about? Do you mean just like it's legal basically for
pretty
recreational use?
Like,
I actually don't think there's any reason why we ought to be criminalizing marijuana. I think it's a much safer substance than alcohol. And I don't think there's any reason why we ought to be treating it as a special case the way we do right now. So I'm for that.
cool.
Alrighty.
Taylor, did you have anything else?
All right, well, I already got one answer.
Yay.
So, do you support
had
net
one later.
neutrality?
Let me see if I'm sorry. What was the question?
Do you support net neutrality?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I
good
think
one. Good one. Thank you.
net neutrality is essential in the modern marketplace and in our modern society. It forms. If you have a truly neutral internet, it provides a marketplace for ideas like the founders intended in this country, where it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can get your message out to people. And a neutral internet is the exact opposite of the kind of politics that we have right now, where our courts have unwisely decided that money equals speech. That shouldn't be the case online. It shouldn't be the case offline either. And this idea that we're going to move towards a situation more like Portugal, where you get sold crappy packages of internet access the same way they sell you crappy cable packages, is really gross. I mean, I don't know anybody that's happy about the way we buy cable channels right now. And that's why you have these pop-up runaway successes like Netflix and Hulu, because people are tired of having to have this kind of situation like they have on cable. And I think we need to understand that when Ajit Pai says something like, well, we think the Clinton administration had it right on net neutrality, you should have a light touch regulation. That was a completely different iteration of the internet. And we are wise to the game. When Comcast says to us, we promise we will never throttle content, but it's really important that you allow us to do it. And we promise we'll never create fast and slow lanes on the internet, but it's really important that you remove the restrictions that prevent us from doing so. We know what's up. I mean, we're being lied to by a giant corporation, and we should not accept that as a basis for policy in this country. So I'm 100. There's a long way of saying I'm 100% behind net neutrality, and I'm 100% against what Ajit Pai and his FCC are doing under Donald Trump.
Excellent. That is some freaking great news. I've got goosebumps. Just letting you know.
Oh, great.
Okay, so did you have any other questions, Tay?
Oh yeah.
Okay. It's like 100 or just.
Well, like kind of like the 7 I picked. Since
Well, just give me another one and I'll throw one in there after you.
Alrighty. So, would you want to put a ban on fracking, which of course is really popular here in Texas?
I would love to ban fracking. Yes. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, the methane leaks coming from those operations pose a serious threat to any attempt to restrict global warming caused by human-driven carbon emissions. Methane is a much more potent gas, especially in the short term when it comes to raising temperatures, than even carbon dioxide. And looking to natural gas as a solution instead of favoring renewable energy like solar and wind and hydropower and other things like that, and like fuel cell technology, is just a bridge to nowhere. I mean, 30 years ago, you could have been in a situation where natural gas could form a bridge to the future if we had done something like that and made a serious effort to get off oil and gas. But it's way too late for that. Scientists like Michael Mann have been very clear that fracking as a method of bridging to a carbon-free economy is really a bridge to nowhere. In addition, in Texas, we have a very specific case study about why fracking is a net loser for the state. The man who brought fracking to Texas was a man named George Mitchell. Essentially, he brought it to Texas. The foundation that he set up, the Mitchell Foundation, has since then done an analysis along with other nonprofits in the area, and their report showed that fracking operations in rural areas did about $1.5 billion worth of damage to rural roads because the heavy machinery is driving on roads that just aren't rated for that kind of machinery.
Mhm.
Well, in the state of Texas, the natural gas tax only gets us about $500 million every year. So we're in the hole $1 billion plus every year that these fracking operations take place in Texas just through damage to the rural infrastructure. So not only is it a really dangerous kind of diversion from the renewable infrastructure that we need to be building, it's destroying the roads in the state. We have to stop it.
And the environment.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a carbon emission that we have to get away from. I mean, no
and
matter.
Yeah. And our drinking water too.
Yeah,
It does. I mean,
seeps into everything.
Here's the thing about this area that we're running in. The 21st District of Texas essentially encompasses almost the entire hill country. About a dozen headwaters of the rivers that give southern Texas its character originate in this landscape. And our concern is you want to protect those headwaters and those springs and those aquifers from those chemicals. In addition to the fact that we have a water scarcity problem in this district, and we don't need our water supplies picked up by people who want to use them for fracking operations instead of for drinking water.
Wow, it's a never. And didn't Halliburton kind of bring or start fracking? Weren't they like the inventors or the
Well, I
main
mean, there's a
source?
lot of folks that try to claim to it. I mean, George Mitchell really was one of the driving folks who brought the fracking boom to Texas. But I'm sure Halliburton's making tons of money from
Still
the operations as
Yeah,
well. I
from what
mean,
I'm hearing, yeah.
it's competing really hard in Texas with oil for the most profitable energy source. But it's just both of those fossil fuels are fossil fuels we have to get away from. Just period. We have to be at net neutral carbon emissions, net zero carbon emissions by 2035. We don't have time to build a big fracking infrastructure. We have to go straight to solar and wind.
Yeah, it's we need to bypass that and bypass all those
Right.
things, of course. Oh, by the way, you got a fan, Benji, one of our guys, been with us for months and months and months.
Oh, nice.
This guy is awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway,
Even with my accompaniment,
Whatever
thank you,
you're
Benji. I
selling, he
appreciate
just
that.
bought it. Just telling you.
Good. All right. Good. Go to electrocrow.com. That's where you should go right now. That's great.
Taylor, did you have anything else? I'm not hearing anything from the. Taylor, do you have any other little questions or bigger questions?
Yes. Let's see.
Taylor, what school do you go to, by the way?
I just graduated from Texas State University.
Bobcats.
And that's how I met him.
Way to go,
Yeah.
buddy. Excellent. What did you major in?
Journalism.
Nice. Outstanding.
Mhm.
Good job. So we
And-
have a future journalist here with
Right.
us right now.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
Maybe he'll be
And-
writing for you someday.
Right. And right now I live here in New Braunfels, which I'm at right now.
Excellent.
Alright,
so just a
so-
quick note for me. I used to live in Carrollton, Texas.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Carrollton, just north of Dallas. I really liked Texas. When we were kids, we used to go take our BB guns, and then sometimes the older dads would take the big guns, and we would just
Right.
carry. We were just ammunition carriers. But this is when Texas and all that area was pretty rural. Because I'm older.
Right.
I'm older. So back in the day, you could go hunting and stuff like that. So that kind of
Right.
brings me to a quick question, if you don't mind, Taylor, if you don't mind. Sorry,
Okay.
since I got it in my head. Second Amendment.
Right. Well, I mean, look, in this area, just to contextualize this district for you, I live just north of a city called Buda, and Buda has a Cabela's in it that's so big that it has its own water tower. I mean, it's a gigantic hunting and fishing outfitter. And so hunting and fishing is really important in this area. And so, guns mean different things to different people in different parts of the district. My position, though, we've just recently had a very horrific mass shooting in the area just outside
Yeah.
of our district in Sutherland Springs. And I think, even most responsible gun owners understand that we have to take some basic precautions to stop needless gun deaths in this country. And the first, I had actually a really interesting conversation with somebody today, and I'm going to answer the question, I promise, but just by way of
No, it's all right. Go
illustrating
ahead, man. Just
the
go.
situation here.
I got time.
I was out door knocking in San Antonio today, and the very last door that I knocked on, I was there because the person's wife was on our walk list because of her voting history, but her husband was the only one home, and he answered. He was a veteran, and he said, "Well, she's not here, but come on in." And he walks me into this garage, and he's modifying an 1800s rifle with a new scope and everything. It's a gun shop, is what I'm walking into. And I started talking to him like, "Look, I think we may have some points of disagreement, but I just want to talk to you about what you think the solution is for things like Sutherland Springs." And the way he phrased it, it was mind blowing to me. He said, liberals talk about gun control, but really what we need to do is just do a better job checking out the people who want to buy guns. And I said, now hold on. Are you saying you're for universal background checks? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, so am I. You're 80% of the way there to agreeing with the folks on my side of the aisle. I think you need universal background checks. And I think the question you always need to pose to conservatives on this issue when you're talking about quote unquote gun control is when you're talking about preventing needless gun deaths, do you want civilians to be able to buy bigger magazines than police officers? And I think most people will say no. But the problem is right now, civilians can buy a 30-round clip. Most cops have a 10-round clip. The only reason that they were able to stop the guy who shot at Gabby Giffords was when he stopped to reload. He had a 30 magazine clip. Think of how much faster they could have stopped that guy if he'd had a 10-round clip. Right. People who are responsible gun owners, kind of 80% of them think you should, and I think that's the polling, something like 83% think you should limit the size of the clip. I am for universal background checks. I'm for limiting the size of those ammunition magazines. I'm for making straw man transactions, which is where if you're buying someone a gun on their behalf when you know they would fail a background check, that should be a federal crime. It's currently not a federal offense.
Good one. I like that. Never even thought about that.
But then I think the Sutherland Springs incident also points out that we have some real problems with the background system itself. This is a guy who went through a background check and was passed, even though in his background in the military he had been jailed and he had been court-martialed and jailed for domestic violence. He should not have qualified under the background check for his gun, but the federal agencies just weren't reporting to each other what his actual background was. So Congress needs to also think of their job as doing real oversight and making sure that those systems are working. Right now, Congress doesn't care if they work because they don't want them. So
there's a lot of money coming from the NRA and
and it is. It's companies. I've talked to a lot of gun owners in the process of this race. Almost none of them support what the NRA is doing. And the NRA's purpose right now is to cater to those 3% of Americans who own 50% of the guns. Wow. And that they have a very niche, high dollar audience that they are antagonizing and scaring into buying more of their products. Right. And that's their only goal, is to make people buy more guns. Yeah. It's not safety for our neighborhoods.
Right. They're using fear to get them to buy guns all the time.
Right, exactly.
Obama's going to take your guns. Everybody's going to take your guns away. Blah, 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 blah.
If you've looked at their recent ads, they're literally trying to gin up a civil war to sell guns.
Seems like
their current ads are so high temperature and so pointed towards violence as a political solution that one has to literally conclude they're trying to start a civil war, start an insurrection to sell weapons. It's disgusting.
Ugh, it just makes you want to hurl sometimes, man. I'm telling you. Just seeing the whole process, just amazing. But people keep buying into this.
Absolutely.
Another thing, if you're buying a gun like a semi-automatic gun, clips are one thing, but semi-automatic, there should be a deeper background check. I even thought of maybe getting it signed off by your doctor that you're not cuckoo. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't be selling. This is what this gentleman also said. I mean, as he's working on this gun that's got like bullets all over it, he's telling me, and you also ought to check people out to make sure they don't have severe mental illness before they buy a gun. And he thinks he's stating a position that is at odds with what progressives are after. But the problem is that the words gun control have been branded very strongly on the right as this total evil. But when you start talking to people, and if you can get past those labels, you can find a lot of areas of agreement because people aren't stupid. They know that, situations like Las Vegas should never happen. There should never be a single person who can turn a concert into a war zone. Nobody wants that.
Taylor, did you have another one, sir?
Yes.
How much more? You got a little more time? Are you good? Everything?
I got about 5 more minutes if we need 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Fine. Sure.
If you don't mind, I wanted to ask you a quick question.
Sure.
And I'll get to it real fast. It's not too long. So there are only 2 countries on this planet with only 2 parties that hold absolute power in their governing bodies, right? The United States and Malta.
Oh my gosh!
I know.
What a club!
It's really interesting. So Malta is a small island about the size of Dallas County in the Mediterranean Sea. Who cares? I love Malta. It's a great place. I got some good vacationing out there, but it's not the United States. They've only got like 400,000 people there. We've got 315 million. I mean, my God, going up to 315, 20. So with that being known, okay, would you support a public, not private, either takeover or removal of the CPD? And what that is the Commission on Presidential Debates that is funded by corporations like Comcast, GE, Shell, Exxon, and alike. And then they also foundations like the RNC has the Heritage Foundation, or another foundation is the DNC's Clinton Foundation, which supports them. And there's so much money going into that. Or private donors like Koch and Soros, to allow a much easier path for a third or more U.S. political parties to share the debate stage, or at least have an easier access into the political system itself.
Right. Well, look, I support publicly financed campaigns, period. And I think we need to get this money out of politics in general. I am for allowing anyone to fully participate in that presidential process. And I think you're right that a lot of what happens is like corporations use their leverage to kind of steer the debate and box people in, and you're stuck with these candidates who, even inside the 2 parties that are the 2 major parties right now, you're hemmed in on what your choices are by those media monopolies and all those other things. I would need to look into a little bit more how broad your proposal is, but I don't think corporations ought to be determining the course of presidential debates and who gets to be there. I think we should be, I think in some ways the Republican primary this past time was very illustrative of how a robust political debate can really elevate politics into the national consciousness. They started out with like a dozen candidates this time. And in our own race, actually, we've had that on this side of the primary. We started off at one point with like 10 candidates in this primary. What that did was really engage people.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to see that diversity of opinion. And it was really interesting how that many candidates doing that much organizing brought so many more people into those events so they could see their candidate and all the other candidates. I'm for a very robust presidential debate. And I think it ought to be possible for parties just outside of the parties that are currently within the mainstream or the 2 that are the major parties to be able to contribute to those debates. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think, I'm very comfortable with saying that if you're pushing policies that advocate on behalf of the working class, like I'm trying to push in our campaign, you shouldn't be afraid of that. Yeah. You should be comfortable enough with your own position to know that that's not a threat to you.
Yeah, I'm just going to say before you go, I just wanted to show everybody your site, which I know you're giving me access to do. I want to let you guys know that this kid's for real. I like where he's moving. No, I'm not a big fan of the Democrats because of some other things, but I like the direction on where this guy is going, and I truly appreciate you coming in. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go and show your site real quick, and I'm just going to say a few things. And
can I ask one question?
No, we got a question. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right. I guess I'll get to the main important one.
Sorry about that.
Do you believe that the DNC will be fair with future candidates and primaries after seeing what happened to Bernie Sanders?
This is an interesting question. Right. So, I mean, Donna Brazil's book really cracked this question open. And I'll say and I'll answer your question, but I think there were a couple other things in that story that we also ought to keep in mind as well. One is that when I think one of the real scandals was that when the Clinton campaign came into this agreement that was kind of the focus of Donna Brazil's book, or her recent media appearances, was that the DNC was broke. They were about to not make payroll, and the Clinton financing literally kept the lights on, and the vice chairs didn't know. That's a real problem. And so I've been pretty clear that I think the official party structure needs serious reform. And one of the reforms we need to implement is to divorce the party from Wall Street and finance money, because that leads you to situations where you get candidates that are basically pro-corporate candidates that are closer to being in the middle than they are to being on the left. And I think our job, I'm going to answer your question in a slightly different way. Our job as the folks on the progressive side is to become the party. So, and we're going to have to do that by running candidates all up and down the ballot and essentially working to make sure that our perspective is the perspective represented by the party. I hope what that means is that will provide lots of leverage for the folks who agree with things like Medicare for all, climate change action, a $15 an hour minimum wage, and college for all, so that there's not an opportunity to be unfair to candidates like that.
Right.
I think it remains to be seen. I think folks tend to say that they're worried about the fairness factor because they've seen some evidence that there was a thumb on the scale. I think the real proof is going to be in the pudding, though. I don't think we know. I mean, right now the DCCC has put this race on its targeted list again because Lamar Smith is out. Our opponent, by the way, the Republican, is retiring, so that's going to be an open seat. And so our hope is that the National Party will approach this in a fair way. But I think as candidates, it's incumbent on us to build campaigns that can win, right, and can win without that outside kind of cavalry coming in. And I think even Mr. Sanders will say, and he said as much in several interviews, that when they started their campaign, that he was really looking to influence the issues and didn't realize the level of support he was going to get so early. And so I think even he was caught off guard at the beginning by the groundswell of support that he triggered. And I think if he had known that groundswell of support was out there, he would have been able early on to build a campaign that could win with that, whether or not the DNC was being fair or not. And I think even he has said that publicly, and I think that's true. So, I mean, the lesson I think of that last cycle is you need to make sure that you build from the very beginning campaigns that can win, and that you're not relying on the cavalry to ride in at the last minute.
Yeah. It sounds like you want people to come together, all candidates, everybody representing their districts or their states, their cities, wherever, to come together to actually recreate a more, my motto word today, an integral party that has real integrity, because that's really what they've lost over I don't know how long now, but I mean, and that's on both sides of the coin here. Right. But I'd like to get a third coin in there, a third side, at some point. I think that'll make them look, at least. You know what I mean? It'll turn.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, keeping the other two parties honest isn't a bad thing. Yeah. I mean, look, if you look at the quality of, just from our own experience in this primary, there are still 4 people in the primary. All 4 of us know that because of that, we have to be at our best all the time. It increases the quality of the candidates. It pushes us to be more aggressive to outreach to voters. And competition in politics is good. And we should just own that and not be afraid of it.
Outstanding. Hey, I just want to say, Derrick, thank you. It's awesome. By the way, Snork, he just came on. Snork is an engineer of amazing gifts and talents. He's worked with, I think, NASA and all kinds of people, and he honors us with his presence sometimes.
Oh, nice.
And Snork, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I was eating. I did not work for NASA.
I know, but something like that, them. Right?
But, right. Never on their paycheck.
Anyway, do you have a quick question? Something quick? Because he's got to go.
I don't, like I said, I thought it was starting in 15 minutes. I had my time wrong.
Okay. Anyway, I may have given the wrong information.
Did you already ask my questions?
No, I didn't get your questions.
Oh, okay.
Well, just ask anything. If he's here.
Yeah, let me pull up my list here.
What color underwear are you wearing? Anything.
That's
Because you know Snork, you want to know, buddy.
Well,
It's coming. Sorry.
yeah, I'd had some questions earlier, and
Oh, it's okay. While we're closing, do you want to say hi to my kiddo again?
Yeah, let's see that guy.
Hey,
What's his
Henry, you
name
want to
again?
come be on camera for a second?
Yeah, come on, bring him on.
Come be on camera for a second.
Come on,
Come
buddy.
here. You're like the crowd favorite anyway. They don't
I
want to
know,
see you.
right? Everybody wants to squish you.
One more time for Henry. This is
Get
Henry.
in my belly.
Hi,
Get in my belly.
Say hi. Say hi.
Get in my belly.
There you go.
All right. Well, I guess while Snork's looking for a question, can I just ask one simple one?
Oh, he got a simple
Sure.
one. Go ahead.
And then I'll have to hop
Okay.
off.
Yeah,
Sure.
He's got to hop on. He's got stuff to do. He's got a family
All right.
to raise.
So, I mean, do you know if like the DNC will give you funding, especially since
Well,
you seem to
I
be...
imagine that whoever wins the primary will receive support from the National Party. I don't think anybody should expect it before the primary is over, though. I think
Okay.
until March 6th at least, they're gonna be neutral, and I think that's appropriate. I don't think the party needs to be trying to put their thumb on the scales in the primary. They did recruit some folks into the race that were a little disappointing. They have recruited an ex-Republican to run in this race before talking to the local folks, which was interesting. But I think we're going to win the primary. I think we are working very hard and knocking on doors, and we're just really far ahead in terms of voter contact. But I do think that, constituents tend to respond to things like the fact that I live in the district and a couple of our opponents in the primary don't, and they're lighting up around this progressive message. So I think that's the real winner for us, and I think we're going to win. You want me to get off the phone, buddy? My kiddo's telling me I gotta go.
Oh.
But I think that they will be supporting whoever wins the primary. Yeah.
I did have two really quick ones.
No,
I realize your state probably would not ban before banning fracking, but would you?
I'm for banning fracking.
Would
Yes.
you be for at least, if not total ban on fracking, a ban on the use of radioactive taggants, where they
Sure.
seeping up?
But I
on
mean,
the
but
ground?
I'm for the ban on fracking. Period.
Okay. And the other was, would you support banning U.S. intelligence services from doing scams on American people to raise funding for covert
That's
operations?
like an NDAA
Sorry.
question. That's like an NDAA.
Oh, you already had it? Sorry.
No,
Henry,
he
calm down,
hasn't
buddy.
fielded it yet, but
My kiddo's trying to. My kiddo
Yeah.
must be a CIA plant. He doesn't want me to answer the question.
Oh.
In just a moment, buddy. In just a moment. Calm down. Sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Well, the constant phone calls. Either the NSA is complicit or incompetent. I don't believe they're incompetent.
Huh.
Say
Interesting.
if these phone calls are coming in, is one of our organizations using it to raise money? These scams.
Interesting.
And then
But
porn virus.
I'm not sure what the situation is on that, but I will say I'm for stopping mass surveillance of folks in the United States,
Mhm.
that's
and
it.
I'm for making sure that Americans know that their conversations aren't being recorded and stored in these giant data centers, and I'm for making sure that intelligence agencies are there to provide actual intelligence instead of being in the military operations business. So from that perspective, I support those things, but I'm not that familiar with the situation.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I
All right,
That's
and
awesome.
too long.
And just one yes or no question, real quick.
All right, and this will have to be my last one. I'm sorry.
All right.
Right.
All right. Do you support Planned Parenthood?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, that's on his site. A lot of good stuff's on his site, you guys. It's important to look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Missed
very
that
much,
one.
Derrick, for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Mahalo
Anytime.
nui loa.
All right.
you.
Thank
My
you
kid's telling me
for-
I know you can get off the phone.
Oh, okay.
Easily.
Oh,
It's good. All right. I'll see y'all soon.
And use
Thank
the
you for
video
having
if
me.
you need. Take care. Aloha. Goodbye.
All
Take
right.
care of yourself. Yep.
Thanks for doing this for me, for us.
Sure. Anytime, Taylor. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Take
You're
care.
welcome. Bye.
Awesome sauce. All right, so I'm going to close this. You guys, I'll remove you. So listen, let me do my monologue. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm going to turn this back on for you guys at like about 8 o'clock tonight. Okay, for you guys, all right? So you guys can have your late night discussions. But this has been a great show. Thank you, Taylor, for your questions. Thank you, Snook, for coming on. I'm going to boot you right now. Thank you, Taylor. Good job. Thank you, Taylor.
All
Good
right, you're
job, buddy.
welcome.
Good job.
Yeah,
You are
I just
freaking
had to
awesome, brother.
share. I just had to get a politician and share it with y'all guys
That was
after we've had
fantastic,
some.
bro. Epic work. We're all doing a great job. Thank you so much. See you later.
All right,
Okay,
bye,
take care.
aloha.
Bye. Aloha. Okay. Wow. So that was cool, right? First time we had an actual Democrat. He's more of a Justice Democrat. I can understand why now Jimmy wants a lot of these people on there. I just want to. I just need reassurance, and I just want reassurance that they're going to start to fix a party that I used to believe in. And by the way, a long time ago, I used to believe in the Republican Party, but that's when I was like drunk every day, like literally. But we do need a third party. He mentioned that we do need a larger forum for more people to discuss more issues instead of just, catering to just certain lobbying groups or super PACs or individuals or foundations. So I think that was a pretty great interview. The guy seemed pretty damn green to me. 15, amazing. All I got to say is I'm very fortunate he was on tonight. I'm very glad that you guys showed up tonight. Thank you for your questions from the galley. Hi, Forsaken. 1329. See, what's up? J. Scott. My Jake. Cheryl Vick. Hey, Cheryl. I'm going to turn this on back later, but anyway, thank you very much. Taylor, great job. This is Jim with Monotalk. I want to say thank you all for coming. I'll be on, or have this on later at about 8-ish tonight. And you guys can do whatever you want on that. I'll have somebody else host and blah, 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 blah. Aloha. Thank you. Again, Derrick Crow, 21st District of Texas, running. If you're smart, get this guy in. If you really believe that there's a better way for your state and for your nation to run, he is a good candidate, in my opinion. I don't know if there are any Greens out there running against him, but if there are, hopefully you guys can challenge him, which I'm sure he'll take you on, and get those debates going. Thank you guys very much for coming on. Again, this is Jim, or James, or Jimbo, or Jimmy on Monotalk. Remember, my core reason why I do this is I think what his core reason was for his kids. We just want a planet to be saved for all of its inhabitants, so we can all let the kids play and stuff, so we can still fix it. And he believes, we need to do some dramatic changes. I just want to say, I'm trying to leave. I'm trying to get off. Okay. Aloha, everybody. Thank you so much. Aloha. Thank you all for coming in. Bye.